Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Arif and I welcome you all to our new session. To access the notebook for today's session, you can access the course page on my personal website, arifpat.me. You can click the appropriate notebook under the lecture resources column to view it in Jupyter NB Viewer and can run it online on Binder. The other way to download this notebook is from the course GitHub account RFPUCIT, and here is the public data science repository. Well, this is the Jupyter Notebook dashboard running locally on my machine at port 8888, and here is the notebook for today's session. Lecture 2.8 for the second module, Basic Python Programming, for the course titled Tools and Techniques for Data Science. Well, today is the last session of discussion of these six built-in data types. In the last session, we discussed the set data structure, which is an unordered and unindexed collection of heterogeneous items that is iterable, mutable, and allows no duplication of elements. My dear students, today we are going to do a scuba diving to understand Python's dictionary data structure. A dictionary object is created by placing comma-separated key-value pairs in curly braces, and each key-value pair is separated by a colon. Every key inside a dictionary has to be unique and has to be of some immutable type. That is, the keys of a dictionary can be a number, string, or a tuple. The value inside a dictionary can be duplicated and can be of mutable or immutable types. Remember, from Python version 3.7 onwards, dictionaries are ordered, however are not indexed like a list, rather indexed by the key values. You can think of dictionaries whenever you want to store millions of key value pairs and given a key want to retrieve its corresponding value efficiently. Okay, enough of theory. Let us see the agenda of this notebook. Well, we will learn how to create a dictionary, different proof of concepts related to dictionaries, accessing, modifying, adding, and removing elements from a dictionary. And before we start, let me give you a motivation to use a dictionary. My dear students, let's suppose that we have some students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students with corresponding marks. And we want to store the students as well as the marks inside the system. One way of doing it, we make a list of students and we make a list of marks. And remember, both these lists are associated by the indices. At index 0, we have student Rauf. In the student list, at index 0 of marks, we have the marks of Rauf. And similarly, at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, in the student list, we have the name Mujahid. And over here, at this index, corresponding index, we have the marks of this student Mujahid. And suppose I want that given the student name, I should be able to retrieve the marks of that student. For that, I have to, one way of doing that is you define a function which is passed a name, and this name returns you an index from this student's list. Remember, the index is a method of the list class. It returns the marks from the marks list of the same index. And this way we can get the corresponding marks of any student whose name is given. Let me show you this in running. So once I request the marks of Hadid, I get the marks of Hadid, which are 74. And when I request the marks of Mars, I get the marks of student Mars, which are of course 70. The easier way of doing this is to use a dictionary. So how to create a dictionary? Well, a dictionary can be created using key value pairs separated by colon, and inside a dictionary we have comma separated key value pairs enclosed in curly braces. So this is our dictionary that I have created. You can see it has a key value pair containing name Arif and maybe his marks 51, the name Rauf and the marks, the name Hadid and the marks. So these are the three key value pair inside this dictionary named Dict1, and the type of the dictionary is this, and of course its ID is this. I hope the basic concept of creating a dictionary is clear to you. You can have a dictionary with integer keys and string values. You can have a dictionary with mixed keys. Remember, as far as the keys are concerned, they have to be immutable. You can always create a dictionary using the dict method. You can create an empty dictionary, and this is another way of creating an empty dictionary. And you can always pass a two object tuple to this dict method, and this way you can also create dictionaries, the key and the value, the key and the value, the key and the value. So these are the different ways of creating dictionaries, and most of the times we use this method, more readable. Okay, after creating dictionaries, let's have some simple proof of concepts related to dictionaries. Remember, dictionaries allows duplicate values. So I can have duplicate values. Dictionaries does not allow duplicate keys. So over here I have duplicate key, name. So this will not raise an error, but will override the value corresponding to the previous key. So it has first created a key value pair with the key name and the value Kakamana, and then it has overwritten the value corresponding to the key name. My dear students, keys inside dictionaries must be of immutable data types. So you can have a string over here, you can have a tuple over here. However, you cannot have a list which is mutable as a key of a dictionary. So this will flag an error. Then values inside dictionaries can be of mutable as well as immutable type. We can have the value as a string. We can have a value as a list. This is valid. Tuple being immutable can also be used as a value. So this is also valid. Dictionaries are heterogeneous. The keys of a dictionary can be of integer, string or tuple types, and the values can be of any type. And the way we can have nested lists and tuples, we can have nested dictionaries. You see, we have our dictionary as a value of the key address at this row? Well, my dear students, remember from Python 3.7 onward, dictionaries are ordered. So we have two dictionaries, D1 and D2 and D3 as well. Every time you access dictionary elements, they will show up in the same sequence in which they are inserted. However, remember that unlike string, list and tuples, the elements of a dictionary cannot be associated by an index. And remember, two dictionaries having same key value pairs are two different objects. So Arif, Rauf, Farid, Arif, Rauf, Farid, this D1 and D2 have the same key and the same value, but this D1 and D2 are two different objects having addresses 8528 and 8720. Okay, next let's see how we can access different elements of our dictionary. First of all, how we can retrieve values of our dictionary. We can retrieve the values of our dictionary using two ways. One is using the subscript operator and pass it the key, and the other is using the get method of the dictionary. Let's suppose this is our dictionary and we can access the value corresponding to the key address using the straight brackets. Remember, we are not passing the index, we are passing the key. And the other way, instead of using this straight bracket, you can use the dictionary method, that is get. And you pass, of course, the key to this get method. Okay, in case of a nested dictionary, you can retrieve the values. For example, I can use the straight brackets and pass the address. This will, oops, okay. So I have not executed this. So this has given us the value corresponding to the key address. And if I want to get the value corresponding to this key again, for example, the key address, and within this we have the key area, so I need to pass this area again. Like over here I have passed address and then I have passed city, so I will get the value Lahore over here. And the way we can use the straight brackets, we can use the get method as well, and this is the example of using the get method. So remember, there are certain times when we have nested dictionaries and we want to access different values of the nested part of the dictionary. You can use this syntax to do that. While retrieving all key value pairs, you can use the items method of the dictionary. It will return all the key value pairs of a dictionary as a two object tuple. So this is the first tuple having the key and the value, the second tuple, the third tuple, and so on. So this items method returns you a key value pair, rather all the key value pairs of a dictionary as a two valued tuple. And if you want to get the keys only, you can use the keys method of the dictionary. So over here you have seen that I have just received the keys, name, age, address, and marks. And the way we can get only the keys of a dictionary, we can get only the values of a dictionary using the values method. So this makes sense. So let me repeat. The items method returns all the key value pairs. The keys method return only the keys, and the values method return only the values of a dictionary. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about adding and modifying elements of a dictionary. So you can use the subscript operator, and the way to use that is you use the subscript operator and pass it the key, and on the right side of the assignment statement you use the value, and this value is assigned to the corresponding key of this dictionary, the corresponding value to this key of this dictionary. And this is an example to that. So in this key we have the address as Johor Town, and over here I am modifying the value corresponding to the key address from Johor Town to Model Town. So it has been changed. And if you are doing that and the key you are using is not already there inside the dictionary, a new key value pair will be added to that dictionary. So you see over here a new key and its corresponding value has been added. Okay, you can use the update method for the same purpose. The update method is passed key colon value, an argument, and this will be updated to this dictionary. For example, over here the name is Kakamanna, the key name, the value is Kakamanna, and I want to modify it using the update method. I have passed a key value pair. I am changing the name to RF Bhatt and it is changed. And of course, as previously, if the key doesn't exist, a new key value pair is added to the dictionary. So over here we have just added one key value pair using the update method. You can use it to merge two dictionaries. For example, we have a dictionary D1 containing name and age and another dictionary containing address and marks. I can use the update method to merge these two dictionaries. Okay, now moving ahead, let's see how we can remove elements from a dictionary. So you can use the subscript operator and pass it the key. Suppose this is the dictionary and I want to delete the key value pair. I need to pass the key in this straight bracket, and using the del keyword this will be deleted from this dictionary. This key value pair age 22 will be deleted. Let's see that. You don't have the age colon 22 value over here. Excuse me. And of course you can delete the entire object, dictionary object, using the del keyword followed by the dictionary name, and after that if I try to access this dictionary D1, you will get an error, the name error, which says this D1 is not defined. Excuse me. Okay, other than the del keyword, you can use the pop item method. Let's suppose we have this dictionary and I just want to remove an item from this dictionary. Item means key value pair. So this pop item method will remove the key value pair in LIFO order, last in first out order. So the marks will be removed, and if I repeat this again, of course the address will be removed and returned. Excuse me. And of course you can check the dictionary, it is changed. It doesn't have the marks and the address anymore. Excuse me, gentlemen. The weather is too bad and I'm having a sore throat. Okay, so pop. Other than pop item, you can use pop. The advantage of pop is that you can pass it a key and it will pop that appropriate key value pair from there. So this is the dictionary, example dictionary. I am using pop method and I am passing it a key. So the key value pair corresponding to this key will be removed from here. So the name will be removed and returned, and if you check out the dictionary, the name value pair is not here. And of course remember that if you pass a key to this pop method which does not exist, this will raise an error. And the clear method also applies on dictionaries. Using clear, it removes all the items from the dictionary and the dictionary is empty. Well, you can do conversions. Let's suppose this is our dictionary and the items method, as we have already seen above, returns an object of the dictionary items containing two value tuples, and its type is dict items. And you can always typecast it to a tuple as shown over here. So this has been typecasted to tuple, and you can typecast it to list as well. You can get the keys as well, and you can get the values as well. So I hope this makes sense to you. So you can retrieve the key value pairs, the keys only, and the values as well. Well, sorting a dictionary by values. So this is the topic which we have seen in the list as well, and in the tuples as well. And for the list, I think we have used the sort method, and for the tuple, we have used the sorted method, which is shown again over here. But anyway, let me repeat this. This sorted method is passed one required argument, that is the iterable which you want to sort. And it has argument key. This is the function that is used for custom sorting. And the reverse flag is set to false by default. And if you set it to true, descending sort will be carried out. Okay, suppose we have this dictionary containing student names and their marks, and we want to sort the dictionary by the highest marks of the student. So I want this Mujahid to come at the top, and then Arif, and then Rauf, and so on. So this is how we can do it. I call the sorted method, and on the sorted method I have passed the items of this dictionary and I want to sort it on them. Remember, this items will return a two value tuple. So what I am doing is that I am passing each tuple of this dictionary to this function func1. This is of course a one valued function, as we have seen in the list as well as in the tuple session of ours. So this function will receive a key value pair, a tuple, and it will return the value of this tuple, that is the first element. At the 0th index we will have the key, and at the first index we have the value. So it is returning the value. So for all the dictionary items we will get the values, and we get a shadow list. The shadow list contains only the values of this dictionary, and on the values of this dictionary this sorted method will sort and finally will display you the entire dictionary, which will be sorted by values. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, I request please watch the sorted method which I have taught in the tuple as well. Okay, let's see another example. Suppose we have a JSON array containing name, age, and grades of students, and we want to sort it by the age value. Well, remember, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and this is a simple list. You can see the brackets over here, and each component of the list is a dictionary object containing three column separated key value pairs. Name Hashim, this is the key, this is the value, this is the second key, second value, this is the third key and third value. Okay, anyway, so this is a sort of a JSON list, and I want to sort it by this age. So once again I'm using the sorted method. This sorted method is passing this list to this function 2. The first element of this is passed to this function. then the second element is passed, then the third element is passed, and so on. And for each element, this function is returning the value corresponding to this age. So for the first element passed, this will return 18. For the second element, it will return 11. For the third element, it will return 12, and so on. So we will get a shadow list again. This sorted method will sort this students list based on that shadow list containing 18, 11, 12, 22, 19, and 17. And finally, the entire list will be sorted. Okay, let me run this first and then this. So you see here we have sorted the dictionary as per the age 11, 12, 17, 18, 19, and 22. Okay, let's move ahead again and finally talk about the simple assignment, that is aliasing, shallow copy, and deep copy. Once again, my dear students, I have discussed in detail this shallow and deep copy concept in case of list. Let me repeat it for the dictionary objects as well. Well, remember, this is a dictionary, and in Python we can use this assignment operator to make an alias. So this is a dictionary, and I have assigned this dictionary using the assignment operator to this dictionary. So an alias will be created. So both these dictionary objects will be pointing to the same address. So 3360, 3360. So these two are just referencing references pointing to the same a single memory object inside the memory. And if I change, let's suppose the value corresponding to the key Mars, that is, I am changing the marks of Mars from 76 to 100 for dict 2, this will be changed for both the dictionaries. So the marks of Mars are changed for both of them. So this is simple aliasing. Let's talk about the shallow copy now. Well, for shallow copy, in case of tuples, we have used the copy method of the copy module. You can use that as well. However, dictionaries and lists do have their own copy method which performs a shallow copy. So I am saying perform a shallow copy of this dictionary object and assign it to this reference dictionary too. So in this case, once we will see the addresses of these two references, that is dict1 and dict2, they will be having different IDs because there will be two different dictionary objects inside the memory. 0064 and 0000. Great. Now if I change the marks of Mars from 76 to 100 for dictionary 2, it will be changed only in dictionary 2. In dictionary 1, the marks are, of course, the old marks. So this is known as a shallow copy. So this seems to be working fine. Then why this is called a shallow copy? So let's see the limitation of shallow copy, my dear students. Let's suppose that we have a nested object inside the dictionary. Over here, the values are just 81, 90, 76, 73, and 93. But over here, I have a nested object, a list over here. The limitation of shallow copy is that it will not create a copy of this nested object. Instead, it will just copy the reference of the nested object. Let's try to understand this. Let's suppose this is a dictionary and I perform a shallow copy either using the copy method of the copy module or using the copy method of the dictionary. So of course, as we have seen above, these two IDs will be different. That is, two dictionary objects are created. Now if I change the value corresponding to the key Mars to, let's suppose, 0. That is, I am changing the marks, this marks 0 1 66. I am changing the this value 66 to 0 inside dict 2. Let's check this out. You see, both the values are changed. So that means no copy of this list is created. Both the dictionaries, dict2 and dict1, are of course pointing to two different dictionary objects, but both the dictionary objects are sharing this list. So that is why this is known as a shallow copy. So we solve this using a deep copy. So we use the deep copy method of the copy module for this purpose. The same example. And over here you see I have changed the marks of Mars to 0 for this 66 in dict 2. So in dict 2 we have 0, but in dict 1 we still have this old marks 66. Great. Okay, my dear friends, let's go to pythontutor.com and visualize this concept of shallow copy and deep copy. Well, this is pythontutor.com. This is a marvelous site that is used for visualizing the code written in Python or Java or C, C++. Whenever you have issues in understanding as or visualizing as to how your code is executing, please come to this website, click this link, and this will open up editor for you. Just copy down the code whichever is confusing you and execute it step by step. Over here I have copied the code from the Jupyter Notebook cell over here. This is a shallow copy. You see this? And here we are doing the deep copy. So let's visualize the execution of this code. So this is the code, and over here you will see the visualization. You keep pressing the next button and this arrow will keep moving down and the visualization will progress. So this dictionary is being created inside the memory. So the dictionary is created. You see dict1, this is the reference which is pointing to a dictionary object. This is the dictionary object containing the key value pairs Rauf 81, Arif 90, and the Mars is of course having a list. So Mars is pointing to a list over here. So once I perform a shallow copy, this copy method of dictionary will create a shallow copy. Let's see how it is visualized. Oops. Okay, so you see this dict2 is a reference is created that is pointing to a separate memory object, a separate dictionary object inside the memory. But over here this key value pair is sharing the same list. The nested object within this dictionary are still shared between the two dictionaries. So if I change this value, the marks of Mars, this 66 to, let's suppose, 0, the 0 will be changed over here. So that is why after the shallow copy we are seeing that the marks changed are depicted in both the dictionaries. And let's repeat this for a deep copy. I have created a dictionary 3. Okay, our dictionary 3, a reference dictionary 3 pointing to our dictionary object as seen in the code over here is created. And remember, this also has a list inside the dictionary. And once I do a deep copy this time, see what happens. This dict4 reference is pointing to another dict object having a separate nested portion of the marks corresponding to the student Mars. So now, if I change the marks will be changed at the appropriate place. My dear students, whenever you have issues in understanding your Python code, please do visit this site and copy paste your code over here, run it, and I hope this will easily make sense to you all. It is very important while uh, programming that you should visualize how your code is behaving. Okay, so my dear students, please do make changes in this notebook file. Play with the given sample code snippets. Wherever you have issue, load it in Python tutor, visualize it. Let your curiosity run wild and see what Python dictionary data structure is capable of. I hope today's session was informative for you all. If you have liked it, please subscribe my YouTube channel and share it with your friends. I wish you all the best. Happy learning and Allah Hafiz.